Forensic anthropology. It is described as the analysis of human remains for the medico-legal purpose of establishing identity. So, let's go to the forensic anthropology and human identification. The role of forensic anthropologists focuses on applying detailed knowledge of the development, morphology, and variation of human body as an aid to establishing, confirming, or indeed refuting personal identification. There are four basic criteria from the basis of any primary identification. First, the skeletal or developmental age. It identifies the age of the skeleton to identify on what year or how long it lasts. Second one is biological sex. It is to identify if the skeleton is male or female. The third one is living stature. And last but not the least is ancestry or racial form. It is to identify where it came from and what family or race it belongs. Through these four basic biological criteria, we can identify body modification, evidence of surgical interventions, including scars, prosthetics, evidence of trauma. The anthropologist can also be called to advise upon the manner of death, particularly in cases of skeletal trauma, if there is a blunt force, sharp force, or ballistic, or any physical process such as burning and explosive damages. Anthropologists can also estimate the time elapsed since death. Overall, forensic anthropology is used for identifying any human being in this world. Its purpose is to understand the uniqueness of individual skeleton, but the most common purpose of it is to identify skeleton age, biological sex, racial form, and the possible happening to a skeletal remain to identify the cause of death of the subject. Now, let's go on the next topic. Forensic serology. It is the application of the study of blood, semen, saliva, and other body fluids to legal matters. It is generally for detection of enzymes and antigens, as in the identification of seminal or bloodstains, blood typing ABA, and DNA typing. The serology section may deal with any of the following like blood typing, semen identification in sexual cases. Let's go to the forensic characterization for blood staining. There are three questions that must be answered by a forensic investigator. Number 1. Is it blood? Use a presumptive test. Presumptive test, it is a qualitative analysis that allows to identify or confirm the presence of a substance in a sample. If yes, is it a human blood? Precipitin test. Precipitin test, it is a serological test using precipitin reaction to detect presence of antigen to determine if it is a human blood stain. Number 3. If yes, can it be associated in human? Use a DNA. Now, let's go to the blood typing. Blood typing involves the determination of the antigens present on an individual's RBCs. Type A blood contain A antigen on RBCs. Type B blood contain B antigen on RBCs. And type AB blood contains both A and B antigens. And O do not contain any of the A or B antigens. Let's go to the forensic characterization of semen. Most commonly found in crimes involve sexual assault. You can identify by putting UV light and using acid phosphatase. Through UV light and using acid phosphatase, you can identify if it is a semen or not. Forensic characterization of saliva. Like semen, it is not uncommon in crimes involve sexual assault. It can identify by mixing starch, iodine, and a sample of a presumed saliva together. Through that, You can identify that body fluid if it is a saliva or not. You can also match it to the suspected person. If it match, he is the possible suspect. The forensic odontology. Forensic odontology is a branch of a forensic sciences. Uses the skill of the dentist in personal identification. Forensic odontology is a proper handling, examination, and evaluation of dental evidence that may be derived from teeth, the age and the identification of the person to whom it may belong. Identification of unknown remains. Dental identification is an important role when identification of remains of deceased person is skeletonized because of fire, explosion, etc. One of the examples is teeth. Teeth are better sources of DNA than skeleton bones. DNA is found in vascular pulp, odontoblastic process, accessory canals, etc. Bite mark. It is defined as the physical alteration in or in a medium caused by contact of teeth. In few of criminal cases, it is seen that the suspect or victim has left his or her teeth on another person or object. Lip print. Lip print is a forensic investigation that deals with the identification of human based on lip traces. Lip print or wrinkle pattern has an individual same as fingerprint. The wrinkles and grooves same as labial mucosa form, a characteristic pattern called lip prints. There are 4 types of lip grooves: the straight line, curved line, angled line, and sign-shaped line. For collection and development and recording of lip prints, a uniform and standard procedures has to be developed which helps ensuring comparison. DNA fingerprinting. It is also called as DNA typing, DNA profiling, genetic fingerprinting, genotyping or identify testing in genetic methods of isolating and identifying variable methods within the base pair sequence of DNA. The technique was developed in 1984 by British geneticist Alec Jeffreys after he noticed that certain sequences of highly variable DNA known as mini-satellites, which do not contribute the functions of genes, are repeated within genes. Jeffreys recognized that each individual has a unique patterns of mini-satellites. In DNA fingerprinting, fragments of DNA are separated on a gel using a technique called electrophoresis. This creates a pattern that can be analyzed and that is unique to each individual with the exceptions of identical twins. The procedure for making or creating DNA fingerprint consists of first obtaining a sample of cells such as skin, hair, or blood cells which contain DNA. Through DNA, you can identify the person if it matches, like for example, mother and a child, father and a child, and more often when a forensic investigator uses it to identify some blood stains, saliva, and semen if it is matched to their possible suspect. The portrait parle. Portrait parle can be defined as a rigorous system for verbal description of physical characteristic of the subject. It is based on the Bertillon method of criminal identification by measurements of the human body and is still in the practice today to some extent. It is a distinctive description of head and face. It is especially valuable for investigations. In order to recognize individuals who were repeatedly arrested, Bertillon developed means by which portraits could be sorted by common morphological characteristics, the specific shapes of the different parts of face. Individuals' prior photo could be found without to resort to browsing large collections of portraits. In 1882, Alphonse Bertillon, also called as the father of scientific detection, said that anthropology could be invoked to aid in the sight recognition and identification of criminals. which he continually enhanced by defining general protocol per phase. Bertillon also designed an incremental physical description card, also called the Bertillon card, comprising of the areas. First, anthropometry, a field he enriched with new topological description of ears and nose and iris. Number 2, an incremental, a detailed physical description method which formed the basis of portrait parle. Number 3, the photographic description. And number 4, an inventory and precise mapping. It is all of the specific marks to be found on the body like scars, tattoos, moles, and the like. Bertillon include these two photographs of Al Capone, one face on and one in profile. Bertillon also includes the different sizes of ears, size and color of the eyes, eyebrows, and other facial features to accurately identify a person or persons. The Bertillon card included also spaces for descriptions of the prisoners. Examples are eyes, ears, lips, bird, hair color, skin color, ethnicity, forehead, nose, chin, etc. The anthropometry. Anthropometry. It is designed by Alphonse Bertillon, began at 1890 and lasted approximately 20 years before being replaced by fingerprint identification. A short background for Alphonse Bertillon. His father is Louis Bertillon, a famous French physician and anthropologist, largely influenced Alphonse's knowledge in human skeletal system. Louis helped Alphonse secure job as clerk with the Parisian police in 1879, where he began to focus his research on the difficulty of identifying repeat offenders. Of course, at that time, there was no system of identification in place. Alphonse Bertillon proposed a method of identification in 1879 using body measurements. He was able to successfully develop and implement anthropometry in 1882. This system is consisted using calipers and other measuring devices. They record their measurements in metric, which brings criminal justice measures outside their zone. Bertillon's photo showing variations in the shape of the human ear. Bertillon photograph in what would come to be known as a mugshot. A 19th century illustration showing how to take anthropometry measurements. Hi, my name is Piolo Clemente from Criminal Justice 23, and this is the end of my presentation. Hope you like it. Thank you.